Recorded live at 4ZZZ Studios Brisbane on 102.1 FM and broadcast across Australia on the Community Radio Network.
You're listening to Z Games. With 10 years experience and over 500 episodes, Z Games brings you the best in gaming news, reviews, community and culture. Want to reach out? Message us on Facebook at ZEVGamesAU.
Hi, my name is Evie, and I'm here with... Okay.
You and with... No, a ghost. It's Caitlin! I'm sorry, it has literally been so long since I've been in studio that I've forgotten how to radio. I apologise.
I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, slow blinking at you, like, your name?
My brain is
your
like,
name now.
Blank, 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 head empty. Thoughts gone.
Look, it's working out fine. I think we're off to a great start.
Sorry. It's been a really long time.
It has been 5 months, I'm pretty sure, since you were last in studio.
Yeah, it would be since about February.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just as the pandemic started,
Yeah.
and 4ZZZ reduced it down to 1.
Yes.
Yep, that's...
Yes.
Here we are.
Here we are. I'm back.
Back,
Back again.
Sorry, I'm just going to jam it out now.
Feels good.
It does?
Feels good. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Weird, but good.
Because when you walked in the studio, like, huh, what's going on? Oh my God, everything's
happened?
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
they've got all these new fancy contraptions in the studio. So you can push the button to be like, let me in, and I'll see. You now pop up on the computer screen, and there's a camera, and I can see you in the car park.
It's good.
And I'm like, I know who's at the door. I have the power to not let you in from here now.
Well, thank you for letting me in.
Yeah, well, you know.
Appreciate it.
I don't know. You can't even remember your own name. How do you
Yeah, I don't know where I am or what I'm doing, but I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy you're here. I've missed you.
I missed you too. I've missed this.
Well, actually, I'll talk a little bit about what's going to happen tonight, since Caitlin has no idea what's going on.
Sorry. What? Where?
Yeah. We will be talking about the news as usual. It's a bit of a heavy week in news, so I'm going to give a bit of a warning, a trigger warning for anyone who has any issues with sexual harassment or sexual assault. That is sort of touched on quite a bit in the news, and we'll be discussing that later. Also, we will be talking about something much lighter and much more fun, which is the new Pokemon DLC, the Isle of Armor. Caitlin and I have been binge playing that. So was Zahra, but unfortunately they can't be in the studio because there's only 2 of us allowed in here.
I'm here.
Yeah, it's Caitlin's week.
Sorry, Zahra.
But that's okay because Zahra and I actually had a conversation yesterday and I recorded it. So we talk about lots of different Pokemon things, and Zahra had prepared a number of questions Pokemon related for me. So we will be listening to that later in the show tonight. But first off, I think we should get into the week in gaming news. So fasten your seatbelts for this one.
Buckle up.
This week in gaming news, a Ubisoft executive, Maxime Belland, resigns after assault allegations. Ubisoft also revealed that Tommy Francois, the editorial vice president, is on disciplinary leave pending the outcome of an investigation. Tommy has also been suspended until further notice. There are also reports of another employee at Ubisoft in Toronto being fired for engaging in behaviours that don't align with what is expected as an employee. Maxime Belland's resignation follows after a string of allegations posted on social media accusing him of choking a female employee at a Far Cry party, as well as several other forms of sexual harassment. Ubisoft were reportedly aware of those allegations and chose not to act. Yves Guillemot, Ubisoft's chief executive, has released a letter titled "Change Starts Today" that details Belland's resignation and Francois' suspension. It also goes on to say Ubisoft will not tolerate workplace misconduct and will continue taking disciplinary actions against anyone who engages in harassment, discrimination, and other behaviours that infringe on our code of fair conduct. Death threats and harassment for the Last of Us 2 team. Developers of The Last of Us 2, Naughty Dog, have issued a statement condemning harassment after several members of the team were subjected to abusive messages. The game was launched on the 19th of June, and since then, fans upset with the outcome of characters' narratives have been spewing hateful comments. Some of the team affected are Neil Druckmann and voice actor Laura Bailey. Just recently, the studio released a statement in support of their staff, saying, "Although we welcome critical discussion, we condemn any form of harassment or threats directed towards our team and cast. Their safety is our top priority, but we must all work together to root out this type of behaviour and maintain a constructive and compassionate discourse." Despite the vitriol, Last of Us 2 has shown to be a massive hit for Sony. It's one of the fastest selling PlayStation 4 exclusives to date, selling more than 4 million copies in just the first 3 days. Congregate, a web gaming company and video game publisher, are no longer taking new game submissions for Flash. The company announced recently that there are over 228,000 games available on the service and that there is unlikely to be any more. Congregate also says that they will be shutting down many of the site's social features, as well as Games Industry Biz reports that several staff were laid off as part of this shift. Adobe announced that it would end support for Flash this year, and multiple browsers now block the standard default. You can, however, still play the games manually when you enable Flash. Head over to the Congregate website to see what Flash games you can still play, or jump onto the Zed Games Facebook page for more details at ZedGamesAU. That's all this week in gaming news.
Well, there you go. That's the week in news.
Indeed.
I don't even know where to begin, aside from mentioning yet again, if anyone has a trigger warning for sexual assault, sexual harassment, or the likes of that.
Death threats as well.
Yeah, death threats. Please tune out for approximately 5-ish minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's Ubisoft obviously not doing so well. Their reputation for making extraordinary games, now also a reputation for hiring possible sex offenders? I don't even know.
Yeah. And sweeping said allegations under the rug instead of investigating them and taking appropriate action.
Yep,
which
and
is god awful and terrible.
I think the interesting thing too is that some of the stuff that goes on with these big companies, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so what harm could there be if, this Yves Guillemot, who's the chief executive of Ubisoft, what happens if he actually came forward months and months ago, or however long ago, when he maybe knew more, let's just say, hypothetically, I don't actually know what's happened, but let's just say immediately addresses the situation, immediately pulls people up, immediately goes public, goes to the media. What that says to the rest of the world, and what that says to women in games, is that they have a problem and they're going to fix it, and we're going to acknowledge that, and we're going to get better. Yeah. And people go, praise Ubisoft, you guys are amazing for being so progressive and pointing out that you're not doing fantastic at every turn, to then being like, okay, now you're fantastic. Now it's different. Now it's like, oh, how long have they been hiding this? How many other offenders do they have? Do they hire offenders all the time? Do they see behavior and then encourage? We don't even know, because it could be endless when you sweep things under the rug.
Exactly. And I mean, like, you only have to look at a company like Riot, who has had a very full-on history and over the last sort of year and a bit have had so many protests and walkouts and strikes from their staff to protest their conditions and the work culture, the toxic work culture there, especially against women, to see that it does your company no good. Absolutely no good. You need to address it. You need to accept that women are human beings and we have a place in the games industry. The amount of female devs out there, the amount of female programmers, animators, graphic designers is huge. And, stuff like this coming to light just sort of reiterates that we have a long way to go with equality in this industry. And, I mean, stuff like this coming out is also good because it's a step towards that equality, but it it shouldn't be happening in the first place.
Yep, exactly. And the same goes with leads into the next more grim part of
Oh God.
it. With,
of Us 2.
you know, death threats towards people who work in the industry who are all for obviously portraying and creating representation for marginalized communities within a large game. You don't like it? Don't play it.
Don't play it. And also, don't send death threats to anybody. First of all, the voice actors have literally no part in creating the character or the story apart from giving voice to that character. Like, Laura Bailey is such a lovely person. She's a voice actor that's, you know, she's done voices for anime, she's done voices for games, she's one of the main cast in the Critical Role series. I'm sure that some of our listeners would be familiar with that wonderful campaign.
Yeah.
And she's been receiving death threats on Twitter. And she's not the only one. And that is really not okay, regardless of how you feel about the story.
You know, I think it kind of a bit of a slap in the face to people who aren't happy with diversity. Get used to it. Is that the game is actually hugely successful. The Last of Us Part 2, 4 million copies sold in 3 days. That's insane.
Yeah.
So, you know, people are buying it. People are still loving it. People still supporting, people still support Naughty Dog. And it's good to see that Naughty Dog have actually put out a statement saying we support our staff. We don't condone this kind of behavior.
Not acceptable.
In the same way that they basically say, you know, we're up for, you know, constructive criticism in terms of our design and our development.
Yeah.
But
this
this
game
isn't.
sucks. Please die. It's
Yeah.
not constructive
really
criticism at all.
Useful. Let me jot that down.
Yeah. I mean, props to them for being like, nope. Whatever, like, the things you guys are saying are not okay, and this is not okay. We have put out a game we're happy with, and it is what it is. It's out now, so deal with it. It's very successful. It's gotten a lot of very good reviews. People really like it, and it's a pity that this small corner of the internet throwing a very, very loud tantrum is sort of drawing away from that positivity.
Yeah, it takes away from what the whole industry is about, which is, you know,
Yeah.
we play games to simulate different worlds, even the real world sometimes, you know. And unfortunately, people out there who don't like certain types of people, they're still going to be out there and they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So we have to all figure out how we get along together. And I don't understand how being mad and angry makes your life any better. Because it's certainly, as a diverse person over here, I don't
Ditto.
care what you think.
I don't.
I'm
Like,
too busy
we
having fun with my
literally
life.
do not care what you think, but also nothing is going backwards moving forward. You know what I mean? Like, games are only going to get more diverse. Games are only going to get better with this sort of thing. Representation is becoming better and better every day in the media we consume, TV, movies, games, you know, having LGBT people of colour, all of that inclusivity. It's only going to keep happening.
Yeah, and the more of us that there are coming out, the more of us they're going to be in different industries, different fields, different places
Exactly.
of work, and we're not going anywhere.
No.
And you cannot be what you cannot see as well. This representation means a lot to a lot of people. So
Exactly.
even though there's that spectrum of a lot of hatred, there is a lot of people that are eternally grateful. So
Yes.
I think
and
that's the big takeaway from the
there has
news.
been a lot of love as well for the people that have been getting all of these horrible comments online. There has been, I would say, probably 10 times as many people telling them they've done a wonderful job and that they have contributed to a really fantastic game. So,
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
The week in gaming news. Whew. All right.
spicy.
But we have something exciting now.
Ooh.
Something to, you know, bring up the mood.
Yes.
Pokemon.
Pokemon.
Pokemans. Pocket monsters.
Pokemon.
Pokemon. I don't know.
The
I was
small
rolling with it.
creatures that you put in a ball and you enslave.
You know, if you describe that to a parent, if you're a child, like, "Hey, Mom, I'm really into Pokemon," and then you're like, "Oh yeah, what's the premise, child?" And the child's like,
Well,
I use animals to. Well, they're kind of like animals. I use
they're animals.
an animal that I've tamed to abuse a wild one to like convince it to be my new tamed one.
Sometimes I just make it pass out. We fight it until it passes out, not dies. It doesn't die. It just passes out. But like,
Then you never see it again, which is totally normal.
bit of a tangent, but I watched the first. So I never was really into Pokemon growing up. I don't know, I didn't have access to it or whatever, so I never watched the series with Ash Ketchum and all that sort of stuff. So it's sort of more of a recent thing for me. But I watched the first episode of the Pokemon series with, or maybe it was one of the Pokemon movies. I don't know. Whatever the situation was, there was an electricity plant and there was a horde of Pikachus going around in a circle generating electricity. And I was like, this is really messed up. What? Huh?
Speaking of messed up things to Pokemon, which we could go for days on this topic, but when I think of Pikachu, I think of Pikachu on Acid, which is a YouTube video, just to preface.
Oh, yes.
It's called Pikachu on Acid, and it's by Game Grumps, and I'm pretty sure Aaron, or Egoraptor, you may know him as, does the voice of Pikachu, and it's
Things to watch
madness.
when I get home.
Yeah, so if you feel like checking out something that'll just bring up your mood or be a bit psychologically interesting, check out Pokemon on Acid on YouTube. You'll find it. It's not hard to find.
What's in the ball?
In the ball,
Yeah, what's in there?
it's a little beam. It
Yeah, but
converts.
like, what is in there? So when the Pokemon is a normal sized Pokemon, ball is small. Here we have problem because Pokemon go inside ball. How does he exist in there? What kind of environment him have inside ball?
I just
How
Googled
do him?
this.
Is it like, you know, when you see a genie lamp and inside there's a little house and they sort of go tiny? Is it like that? Does he stop existing when inside ball?
Is this like? Yeah, this sounds like Schrodinger's cat now.
Fully just going on an existential rant.
This is nothing to do with Pokemon DLC yet, but it will be. I just Googled what is inside Pokemon Ball. Pokemon visibly shrink into the balls. Either way, they are sucked inside of the ball. All of this indicates that the ball is able to convert creatures to fit inside of itself. So in the Pokemon anime, there's nothing inside the ball, but it's mechanical insides. And creatures are rarely shown inside Pokeballs. So this doesn't actually answer the question.
This is like, is it like a cocoon where it just sort of turns into goo or just like matter and then come back out of the ball? Like, do they lose time when they're in the ball? You know what I mean?
Okay, these are questions that are just... I'm also like, while I'm listening to you, I'm also looking at other questions similar to that question that people have asked, such as, what happens if you throw a Pokeball at a human? Can humans be caught in Pokeballs? How much is a real Pokeball? A real one. Wow.
What?
Can a Master Ball fail? No, I don't think it can.
No, it can't.
What is the strongest... What is the strongest Pokeball? Well, the Master Ball.
I have another question.
Anyway. Oh, no.
And then I promise I'll stop and we can talk about what we're supposed to be talking about.
It's still Pokemon. I'll take it.
What? So we know that Pokemon are animals. They're small creatures. They're monsters, which technically animals. Okay, even if we're going into cryptozoology, it's still technically an animal. It's not an alien or a non-animal. So, how much of certain Pokemon is human percentage? Mr. Mime, is he partly human?
Is he humanoid?
Is he alien?
Yeah.
What
Mr. Mime's one of my
is
favorites,
he?
actually.
He scares the ever-loving bejesus out of me. I watched the Pokemon movie, the Detective Pikachu movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is quite terrifying, isn't it?
Fear. Anyway,
Makes
let's
you
talk
think of
about
it.
the DLC.
Yeah. Okay, DLC. Pokemon DLC.
Sorry.
I mean, you made me think of something else. Now I've completely lost my train of thought. But Pokemon DLC. So the Isle of Armor came out
A month ago?
end of
Mid-June?
mid-June. Yeah,
It
it was
was
the
like
16th
16th.
of
Yes.
16th of June. Wow, go
We both
us.
arrived at the station at the same time.
We arrived at the Isle of Armor at the same time.
Literally
okay.
at the station.
So, just to okay, so the Isle of Armor is not a standalone game. It is an expansion
Yes.
expansion on Pokemon Sword and Shield. There are different characters, but ultimately the same sort of narrative for both Pokemon Sword and Shield. And you are basically sent off to this island. You're mistaken for a person who's supposed to join this kung fu / fighting gym or training. I'm
Yeah.
not sure what it is. And you meet some kooky characters.
Yes.
I can't remember there's a girl character with a pink hair.
You have Clara.
That's it.
So
Clara.
we have each different version of Sword and Shield.
Yeah,
so
I'm
you
Sword,
have
you're
I
Shield.
have Shield. So
Mhm.
you have Clara, who is an adorable little poison type chickie. I have Avery, who is a hell beast,
right.
who has spice, and also psychic type.
Yeah, and they're both kooky characters, and they make for
Yeah.
a very interesting story. Probably one of the more fleshed out, interesting characters or NPC characters that I've sort of had.
Well, yeah, you get a bit more interaction with them than some of the other. Because I mean, technically, they're kind of like gym leaders, I guess, because they represent a particular type
Yeah,
Pokemon. But you get a bit more interaction with them.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's cool.
Yeah.
I'll just preface that both Caitlin and I have not finished the DLC.
No.
There is, unfortunately, quite a bit of grind
Yeah.
that has to go on in order for you to get to the end zone. Which is, look, games are meant to be enjoyed, so I can understand the taking time and going, it's Pokemon.
Yeah,
Blah,
I think
blah.
the vibe I get is that they don't want you to be able to just zoom through the whole DLC immediately, which is why they've set it up the way that they have.
And I'm not gonna complain too much
No.
because I understand. I understand why they've done that.
Yes, me too.
I just think that getting a Pokemon from like level 4 or whenever it was, I can't remember what level I got it at, Cubfu, which is what you get in both Sword and Shield.
Is that like Mumifu something?
No, it's
Do we
Cubfu.
have different? Are they
Maybe we have-
different names? Hang
uh-oh.
on. Keep going. I'm going to look this up.
Anyway, Cubfu comes at a low level, and essentially, you have to go different places with it. You have to build friendship, which is all great. They're all great exercises. And you basically sort of rearing a Pokemon up from a low level again, which sort of reinvigorates that sort of excitement of leveling up your Pokemon. 2 downsides. 1, Cubfu doesn't actually evolve unless you trade it at a much later level. Wouldn't recommend trading it and evolving it until you finish the DLC, because I think the fact that it's what it is, that evolution, is important to the story. And then the other downside is that for you to progress at a certain point, with these 2, I guess they're like kind of like gym equivalents, but there's a water tower
Yeah.
and then the dark tower, and you can
Yeah.
sort of take two different paths if you'd like. For you to actually do that, you have to have Cubfu alone in your party,
Mm-hmm.
and Cubfu has to be at least a level 80.
No, I thought we said it was 70.
Oh,
I don't
maybe
know.
it was
It's
70.
a high level.
It's a
anyway.
really
It's
high
a
level.
Very high level.
And I'm still grinding. I think I'm on 62, level 62 on my Cubfu, so
Yeah.
I can't progress yet because I don't feel confident enough that it would be strong enough to actually pass this next section of
Yes.
narrative. So that grind, to give you a bit of an example, for me, who's not an experienced Pokemon trainer or a Pokemon grinder, it's taken probably 7 or 8 hours for me to get Cubfu to 62. Which is a long time. And again, it's fine that they've wanted to install a little bit of grind into their DLC. It's just also not typical of a Pokemon game to have it necessary for so much grind. A little bit here and there,
Bit.
because you've got to go up to the next gym leader. You don't want to lose, so grind a little bit. I can understand that. But this is it's taking a long time. Even with shared XP and all this stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh boy.
I think, honestly, a big part of it is the fact that you have to go in with only Cubfu. I looked it up. I am having a fever dream, and that is his only name.
It is
It's just
Cubfu.
Cubfu.
I'm pretty
Who
sure.
is very, very cute. Very, very cute.
Mhm.
I think, yeah, the fact that you can go in only with Cubfu, you can't take any other party members. So even if you have Pokemon that you've been leveling up for like the whole game, you can't take them. You have to level this Pokemon up. You have to grind until it is the minimum required level to get into the Tower of Water or the Tower of Darkness, and then get on to the next part of the game.
The interesting part is I like that they've done that because it forces everyone into the narrative again. But they've also cleverly disguised this particular mechanic of you have to use Cubfu and only Cubfu into the narrative by
Yeah.
saying Cubfu and you are destined to be, and you must be connected, and you must go to these destinations and look at the pretty view together. That will bring you closer.
Yeah, that was funny. That was cute.
So there's like some stuff where you're like, oh, that's sweet and endearing, and yes, okay, me cub fu, best of buds now. But also I kind of feel for people who've really worked to get their Pokemon to level 100. And then they're like, yeah, DLC, what can I do with blah, 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 and how they're going to do... Oh,
Yeah.
You mean they're completely irrelevant?
My life. So I have a Bellossom who I love. I love her. And she's my little angel egg. I've never used a Bellossom as my main Pokemon before, but I love grass types. And so she's level 92.
Damn.
And I can't use her. I can't even have her in my party because the shared experience gets
Too
too
much.
skewed and Cubfu doesn't level up.
I feel that.
So,
Yeah. Overall, though, great DLC.
Yes.
I'm really enjoying it. Isle of Armor is beautiful. You can actually swim out across the island. You get chased by Sharpedos. There's loads of things. The best feature from the DLC, in my opinion, is that the first Pokemon in your party walks around with you on the island.
yes.
And it is
So
just
cute.
amazing. Umbreon is like my favorite Pokemon.
Aw.
Which I talk about at some point, but I'll talk about it. Umbreon's my favorite Pokemon, and I just took like a cool screenshot earlier today of me with Umbreon, and I'm like, yay,
Hanging
happiness! But yeah, that's a really cool feature. Probably one of the coolest things I've seen Pokemon do, because I always think about like, oh, what's it like to scale to have that Pokemon with me if I was out everywhere?
Yes,
and you can actually
true.
get that scale now, so that's really cool.
Some of the other things that I liked,
Mhm.
I enjoy the little Diglett sort of treasure hunt that they have.
yeah.
I think that's really cute. Like it's challenging, but it's also just kind of like a nice non-battle-y thing that you can do, like riding
It
around all the
encourages that
areas.
exploring
Yeah,
and chilling
exactly.
out.
Searching. That's really fun. And also there is a huge amount of additional Pokemon for you to catch as well. So on top of the Galarian Dex, there's now, I think 250
Yeah, there's a lot.
or something new Pokemon
Yep.
for you to catch, and they are all out in the wild areas. So you can literally spend a lot of time just going on a huge catching spree and filling up your Pokedex even more, which is great.
Get your hands on the DLC now. It is
Do it.
available on Nintendo Switch. It's obviously a Nintendo Switch exclusive. It is about 45 Aussie dollars, I think.
I pre-ordered
For the
it so
DLC?
long ago, I can't
Yeah.
remember.
That will get you this DLC and the next one that comes out later in the year, which I think is November? No, it's a bit sooner than that. Maybe September.
Would have to look it up, but
We'll
it
look
comes
it up.
out in the second half of the year.
It's coming out. So yeah, it's great.
on it.
Get on it.
Do it.
Pokemon. Woohoo. We are now about to go straight into a review that, well, not so much a review as a discussion that I did with Zahra yesterday. So we'll chat about some Pokemon things.
So I'm here chatting with Zahra outside of the studio. It is a Pokemon themed episode, as I'm sure everyone is aware by now. And Zahra and I have some questions about Pokemon that we're going to be asking each other. I believe, Zahra, you're going to be asking me a bunch of questions.
Yeah, I'll be asking you a bunch of questions. So, since you've asked me so many questions the first time that I was in the studio, I thought it'd be fun to sort of switch that up.
We're going to play role reversal or something now.
Yeah.
So, we're getting lots of Pokemon questions, and I'm going to talk about maybe a couple of Pokemon things
Yeah.
that I've been playing over the years that I like that isn't like a coloured main generation game, more like side games like Pokemon Shuffle, Pokemon Cafe,
Yeah,
those ones. Yeah, just chilling.
just kind of outside the, I guess the main series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so
So,
tell me,
Evie?
question me.
what is your favorite Pokemon game?
Game.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really hard. I think I probably have like the greatest level of nostalgia for Ruby and Sapphire.
Yeah, yeah.
Not because
Understandable.
it's not because that they were like my first Pokemon games by any standard. Crystal was actually my very first Pokemon game.
Yeah.
But when I played Ruby and Sapphire, I had friends who also played Ruby and Sapphire, so we did lots of trades, and yeah, it was just really fun to socialize a bit more with that level. And I was a bit older too, so it was a bit, I got more into like getting the amulet coin and getting all these different bits and bobs to like fully properly level up, and the grinds, and yeah, it was good.
That was the point where you became more of a serious player kind of thing.
Yeah, I was a full-fledged Pokemon fan by that point. I mean, I did used to watch, I don't know if you remember Cheese TV.
No. What?
Cheese TV was like a kids' television series in the morning before you go to school, and you get up early and you watch Cheese TV. I think they changed the name of it a few times, but it was Cheese TV when I was a kid, and they would play the Pokemon episodes every morning. So I watched the Pokemon TV series for years before I actually even got a Pokemon game. And I collected the cards before I got games too. So I think the card game is probably one of the most nostalgic games for me as well.
The cards are a lot of fun to collect.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of them, but one of my friends does, and she's got, I think, 1,000 at this point.
You know, is that your housemate?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, yes, I saw all those Pokemon cards. I immediately stopped in my tracks. I was like, they're cool.
It's a lot of fun. It's nice. It's just something about cards, collecting them.
It's just it is a collectible thing too. I actually have a Mewtwo card, limited edition from the Pokemon movie. It's like,
oh my goodness.
It's got the actual Pokemon movie gold writing etched into the card, and it's the original Mewtwo.
You need to frame that.
I should show actually your housemate when I see her next. I'll be like,
yeah,
here's my Pokemon collection.
She might fight you for it. Just warning you.
Okay, all right. I'll keep my bank details.
All right, moving on. Next question. What is your favorite starter Pokemon out of all the generations?
Ooh. Okay. Favorite Torchic.
Torchic.
Yeah, Torchic. Because when I got Blaziken, I was just like, this is the most awesome Pokemon ever. And also that generation, right? Like,
yeah.
Again, got really like attached. Really attached to them.
I can have a big part of it. I don't know why. I never thought that you'd be a Torchic fan. But now that you said it, it makes sense. I'm not too sure how, but it does.
Do you think it's because I've got the spiky topped hair?
That might be it.
Like I'm like a little chicken. What's your favorite starter Pokemon? I want to know what yours is.
Oh, I always liked Cyndaquil.
Yes! Yes.
Very cute, very adorable. Just, its evolutionary forms just is a bigger version. It's very peak design for me.
I also really love, is it Typhus? Oh, what's the fully evolved version of Cyndaquil? I can't remember now.
Typhlosion.
Typhlosion. I can't remember either. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Typhlosion. Oh, God.
I will say that I'll edit this out, but I probably won't. Because it's funny.
That's fine.
They're actually bringing Cyndaquil to Swoosh, I'm pretty sure, Sword and Shield.
Oh.
I'm fairly confident. Because I was reading something somewhere about creating a 3D model for the 3D games for Cyndaquil, because obviously the fully evolved version has obviously the flames coming out the back of the neck, and that was all 2D. So making it 3D is going to be different. So I'm going to be interested to see if, when, maybe that happens in Sword and Shield, what sort of design they go for.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
I think that'll be interesting to see. Yeah.
What's your next question?
Okay. So we've talked about like sort of the main games. What is your favorite spin-off game? So anything on mobile or just not part of the main series?
Fantastic question, because now you're going to lead me into my segue of talking about Pokemon Shuffle.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, when Pokemon Go came out, I was all up in that. I was like, oh my god, it's connecting people from around the world. People are learning how to exercise and game. Yes, Pokemon Go, this is the way. And then my battery died every hour because that game just sucked the soul out of your phone.
Yeah.
And that's when I went, I can't feasibly do this because I have a job and I need my phone at work to work. And yeah, it didn't go so well. But when I was an Uber driver once upon a time, playing Pokemon Go was amazing because I got to go all over town and get Pokemon.
Perfect.
So Pokemon Go was like pretty cool, pretty nostalgic, sort of niche for a while. It was like a fad, I guess, for most people. It's huge now. It's still massive.
Yeah. I'm part of Pogo groups where before COVID, we would organize raids throughout the city, so then we could all work together to get the big Pokemon.
Wow, you're so much more hardcore than me. I have not played since like everyone was like, my battery on my phone, and I'm not getting a portable charger at the end. Like that was sort of like when I also went, agreed, I'm stopping now.
I kind of missed the initial hype because my phone wasn't able to support it. So then when I upgraded my phone, that's when I was just kind of like, okay, I better catch up.
Here we go.
Pokemon. Yep.
And the other mobile game that I've been playing a lot of, the only one that I've spent money on, don't tell anyone, is Pokemon Shuffle, which is kind of like a Bejeweled, if anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, Pokemon Shuffle. It's like Bejeweled, but you got to match Pokemon with each other, and you get points, and you've got to do it in a certain amount of moves, and then you get an opportunity to catch the Pokemon at the end, and then you use those. Whatever. Pokemon Shuffle's great. It's kind of just Bejeweled version of Pokemon, and I spent money on it because it has a timer of how many moves and games you can play every 30-40 minutes or so. So if you want to get more hearts to play more rounds, you have to spend like $1 or something. And I was getting pretty hooked there at a certain point, and I was like, take my money. But yeah, that's probably my two side hustle games from the main pokes.
Yeah. No, those are good ones. I haven't played Pokemon Shuffle, but it looks very addictive.
It's got very satisfying sound effects and mechanics that it's really tricking you into spending the cash, but it's quite, you get really into catching. Yes. Yeah, you get really into catching Pokemon when you succeed in a round that you're like, oh, and that's a very rewarding, satisfying mechanic that you get sort of stuck into that loop of. Plus, you want to catch Pokemon. I mean, isn't that the whole point of playing Pokemon is to catch them?
Gotta catch them all. It's right there.
All of them. Well, I think that's all we're going to have time for in terms of chatting pokes.
Just one last question.
Okay, let's do it.
If you're a Pokemon, what Pokemon would you be?
Umbreon. I have to be an Evie evolution. I can't not be an Evie evolution.
I don't really know what I expected the answer to be.
What would you be?
Charizard.
Yeah, that makes heaps of sense. Fiery and looks like a dragon?
Question mark?
Question mark. Looks like a dragon, but not technically a dragon.
Not technically a dragon. There we go. That's it. That's the title of my biography.
I hope you've got a Tinder account. It's in your
Oh my
bio.
God. Not technically a dragon.
Not hashtag not technically a dragon. Well, thanks, Sarah, for catching up and chatting about Pokemon and asking fun questions. I hope everyone else was answering those questions out there while we were chatting. And I'm looking forward to some more Pokemon DLC action and more Pokemon stuff. But thanks for chatting, Zahra.
No worries. Thanks for having me here.
No problem. Bye.
Bye.
There you have it, my chats with Zahra earlier in the week. Pokemon.
Pokemon,
Gotta
gotta
catch
catch
them
them
all.
all.
That was really bad. Okay. Yeah, that was beautiful. Think we're really onto something there.
Yeah, me too.
Caitlin, thanks for being in here again. I've missed you in studio.
Thank you for having me. It's lovely to be back.
Yeah, it's nice to not have to talk to a wall.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Have another person in studio. I can imagine that's
One
welcome.
day, Caitlin, when I've fully trained you up and everything, you
Oh,
will
yes.
understand. You're like, don't even push me to the edge. All right, fine. Well, on that note, we're going to head out. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to Zed Games. We love you all very, very much. And don't forget to get some Pokemon and, yeah,
Get it.
get it.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Zed Games. If you'd like to listen to more, check out our podcast on Spotify or follow us on social media at ZEDGamesAU. See you next time.